Police in Wynwood investigating after 2 people were shot and killed. A 3rd person was injured.
And police are still searching for who is responsible.
It was just after 3:00 a.m. when the vibrant heartbeat of Miami's Wynwood district was silenced by the unmistakable sound of gunfire. The art-filled walls and neon lights, usually buzzing with energy from late-night bars and sidewalk crowds, became the backdrop of a crime scene that would shake the city. Saturday night had been busy. The crowds were thick, music blaring from clubs, street performers drawing attention, and Uber drivers circling for pickups. As the bars began to shut their doors and people spilled onto IN WYNWOOD Avenue, no one expected the celebration to end in bloodshed. According to initial reports from Miami police, officers on routine patrol noticed a man acting suspiciously on the corner of IN 23rd Street. The man, described as tall, wearing a black hoodie and clutching something near his waist, appeared agitated. Surveillance footage shows him pacing, nervously eyeing passing cars and clubgoers. Body cam audio, now under review, allegedly captured officers alerting each other. "We've got a possible firearm." Seconds later, chaos erupted. Witnesses say police shouted commands, "Drop it! Hands where we can see them!" Then came a sound that's become all too familiar in American cities' gunshots. Multiple, rapid, loud enough to send hundreds of people running in every direction. The man, later identified as 26-year-old Jamal Terrell Whitman, was struck several times and pronounced dead at the scene. His body was found next to a 9mm handgun, which police say he had pointed toward them during the encounter. But as first responders tried to secure the area, another shock hit them hard. A woman's body was discovered just 15 feet away from where Whitman fell. Her name was Rochelle Denise Alvarez, a 30-year-old graphic designer who had spent the night with friends at a nearby rooftop bar. She wasn't armed, she wasn't part of any altercation. And yet, she was dead, a bullet to the chest. In the confusion, a 3rd person, a 22-year-old man, was also found wounded and rushed to Jackson Memorial Hospital in critical condition. His identity hasn't been released. Within minutes, Wynwood transformed from nightlife hotspot to lockdown zone. Yellow tape was everywhere. Sirens bounced off the walls. Officers moved civilians back as evidence markers multiplied across the pavement. Blood trails mixed with spilled drinks. Cell phones buzzed in disbelief. Social media exploded with live videos, people crying, shouting, demanding answers. "They just shot that guy," one woman screamed into her phone. "And now there's a girl down. She wasn't even near him." Eyewitnesses told conflicting stories. Some claimed the man pointed the gun. Others insisted he was trying to walk away. One bystander said the woman was laughing with friends seconds before the shots. Another swore he saw her fall after the first volley, not the last. And then came the biggest question. Who fired the shot that killed Rochelle Alvarez? Police confirmed that multiple officers discharged their weapons. Forensic teams began collecting casings, more than 20 scattered along the sidewalk. Initial statements were vague. No officer was injured. The firearm found on Whitman was recovered, but as for the second fatality, officials offered no immediate explanation. The public wasn't satisfied. Neither were community leaders. And by sunrise, pressure was already mounting for full transparency. Something had gone terribly wrong in Wynwood, and the people of Miami wanted to know exactly how and why. What started as a routine patrol stop had spiraled into a deadly confrontation. One suspect dead, one bystander dead, one man clinging to life, 3 lives shattered in seconds. And at that moment, one thing was clear. This wasn't going away quietly. In the hours following the gunfire, Miami's Wynwood district transformed into a fog of panic, misinformation, and conflicting truths. What had once been a festive night out was now national news, with headlines asking the question everyone on the ground was already screaming. What really happened on IN 23rd Street? By 4:00 a.m., cell phone videos flooded social media. Footage from stunned bystanders showed people ducking behind cars, diving into random vehicles, sprinting barefoot across intersections. Some clips captured the sounds of screaming layered over police sirens. Others zoomed in on bodies lying motionless, their faces blurred by streetlights and chaos. One video, viewed over 6 million times in less than 12 hours, shows an officer yelling, "Stay down! Stay down!" while at least 3 other officers take defensive positions behind a cruiser. Another shows Rochelle Alvarez's friends screaming as they realize she isn't getting up. Inside Miami PD's command post, the pressure was mounting. Officers on the scene began giving preliminary statements. According to police spokesperson Lieutenant Kevin Madrigal, the confrontation began when officers saw Whitman brandishing a firearm. They claim he refused to comply with commands, pointed the weapon toward them, and was shot in defense of civilian lives. But forensic techs had questions. Over 24 shell casings had been found fired from at least 3 different service weapons, and the placement of Rochelle Alvarez's body raised a troubling possibility. Could one of those rounds have missed Whitman and struck her? Even more disturbing was the trajectory. Preliminary ballistics suggested that the bullet that killed Rochelle came from the opposite angle of where Whitman had stood. That detail alone set off internal alarms. Could another shooter have been involved? A civilian? Or worse, was this a case of friendly fire? No one was saying, not publicly. Meanwhile, residents and community leaders were furious. Wynwood is not a war zone, said Councilwoman Teresa Guzman during an emergency press conference at City Hall. This was a crowded, civilian, heavy area, and 2 people died. We need clarity, not spin. Protesters gathered by mid-morning, holding signs that read, "Justice for Rochelle," and "Who fired first?" Outside the police barricades, family members sobbed into reporters' microphones. Rochelle's cousin, tears streaming down his face, said, "She was just walking to her car. She wasn't armed. She didn't threaten anyone. Why is she dead?" The Miami Police Department promised full cooperation with external investigators, but trust was already eroding. Advocacy groups began calling for body cam footage to be released immediately. Civil rights attorneys took to cable news, demanding an independent probe. And in a quiet corner of Polk County, Sheriff Grady Judd was watching closely. Though not directly involved, Judd, known statewide for his unfiltered commitment to both accountability and law enforcement integrity, made a phone call to the governor's office before noon. His message was short and direct. "This can't be handled in-house. Florida deserves the truth." What made the situation even more volatile was the silence. No officer had yet been placed on administrative leave. No internal report had been made public. The name of the wounded man still hospitalized was being withheld. Rumors were filling in the blanks, and each passing hour without answers felt like a betrayal. Meanwhile, forensic teams reviewed not just physical evidence, but digital footprints, live streams, Snapchat videos, time-stamped posts. A growing thread on Reddit mapped out bullet angles based on street photos and elevation angles. The internet, as usual, was doing its own investigation. In the middle of all this, Rochelle Alvarez's parents arrived from Tampa. They were escorted past the press, but gave no statements. The look on their faces dazed. Hollow said everything. By sunset, what began as a shooting incident was now a political firestorm. Calls for justice were coming from both sides of the aisle. And behind closed doors, law enforcement officials knew the inevitable was coming. Someone from outside the city would have to take the lead. And that's when Sheriff Grady Judd made his next move. By the afternoon of May 7th, Miami was a city holding its breath. 2 dead, 1 wounded, dozens of eyewitnesses, and yet no consistent story. The Miami Police Department had gone quiet, citing an active investigation. But the silence was starting to feel like a wall, one the public couldn't break through. That's when Grady Judd stepped forward. From his headquarters in Polk County, nearly 200 miles north, the seasoned sheriff held a brief but blistering press conference broadcast live across Florida's major networks. Known for his southern drawl, no-nonsense attitude, and zero tolerance for vague official answers, Judd didn't mince words. "We've got 2 people dead in one of the most populated nightlife districts in this state. One of them was armed. The other, as far as we know, was an innocent bystander. And people want to pretend this is just another messy scene? No. This is a tragedy, and I don't do cover-ups. He paused, locking eyes with the room. We need the truth. Not spin, not silence. The people of Florida deserve better. Judd announced that he had personally requested the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, FDLE, take over the case. Within hours, the FDLE confirmed receipt of the request and launched a full-scale, independent investigation. Forensic teams would now operate under state supervision. Ballistics reports would be reviewed by outside experts. And most critically, body cam footage would be turned over immediately for analysis. The move was bold and unprecedented in recent years. Judd's critics accused him of political showboating, but supporters, including civil rights groups, praised the sheriff for prioritizing transparency over interagency loyalty. Even Rochelle Alvarez's family issued a statement. We thank Sheriff Judd for demanding what others have not, the truth. Behind the scenes, Miami officials were rattled. The mayor's office reportedly urged police leadership to cooperate fully. The chief of police, under immense pressure, announced that the department would not interfere with the FDLE's probe and had placed 3 officers on temporary leave, pending review. But Judd wasn't done. In a follow-up interview with NBC6 Miami, he clarified his stance. Look, I back the blue, always have. But backing the blue doesn't mean ignoring mistakes. It doesn't mean turning our heads when something goes sideways. If this woman died because of poor judgment, we need to say that. If she died because someone else opened fire, we need to know who and why. No badge protects you from the truth. He went on to say that Wynwood is not a battlefield, it's a place where people live, work, and celebrate. And if officers are forced to fire their weapons in that environment, every single shot must be accounted for. The FDLE set up a temporary operations center just outside the district. Drones scanned the area again. Traffic cams were pulled from a 2-mile radius. Experts reconstructed bullet trajectories using laser scanning tech. Dozens of witness statements were taken in multiple languages, as many clubgoers were international visitors or non-native English speakers. And all the while, Grady Judd kept the pressure on. This isn't just about accountability. It's about preventing the next tragedy. You don't fix what you won't face. Public opinion began to shift. Local protests grew more organized, calling for a state bill mandating independent reviews in all officer-involved shootings with civilian deaths. Civil liberties attorneys praised Judd's intervention as an act of institutional courage. Still, no answers had been released. And the question that now haunted the case wasn't just who fired first, but who fired the shot that should never have been fired at all. As the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, FDLE, took full control of the investigation, a new phase began, one marked not by noise, but by cold, meticulous silence. Gone were the late-night tweets and explosive soundbites. In their place came lab reports, digital reconstructions, and expert testimony. But even as the facts slowly took shape, the questions only multiplied. Forensic experts pored over more than 30 shell casings collected from the scene, most fired from 3 police-issued handguns, but 2 were different. Ballistic analysis revealed that 2 9mm casings didn't match any of the officers' weapons. One of them was traced back to the gun found beside Jamal Terrell Whitman, the man police originally engaged. The other? Still unaccounted for. This raised a chilling possibility. Was there a second shooter in Wynwood that night? Surveillance footage, still being enhanced by FDLE tech teams, showed blurred figures in the background, one of whom appears to duck behind a car seconds before the first shot is fired. Another video from a ride-share driver's dashcam showed muzzle flash from an unexpected angle. Investigators were now exploring the theory that someone else, possibly in the crowd or even on a rooftop, may have discharged a weapon as chaos erupted. Meanwhile, body cam footage reviewed frame by frame confirmed that police gave verbal commands before opening fire, but it also confirmed that Rochelle Alvarez was not near Whitman during the exchange. She had been walking in the opposite direction, texting on her phone when she was hit. The medical examiner's report only added to the uncertainty. The bullet that killed Rochelle entered at a downward angle not consistent with any officer's firing position, nor with Whitman's known height or stance. The conclusion: shot trajectory and angle inconsistent with known active shooters at scene, further analysis required. The news ignited a second wave of protests. Community organizers marched through Wynwood holding photos of Rochelle with the words, "She deserved answers," painted in bold red ink. Her mother, speaking to a crowd for the first time, said, "My daughter wasn't a threat, she wasn't near a gun, and now she's not coming home. Someone needs to tell me why." As public pressure grew, Grady Judd doubled down. In a televised update standing next to FDLE agents, he stated, "This case isn't clean. It's complicated. But the one thing we won't allow is for it to be swept under the rug. There's something we're missing here, and I don't care how long it takes. We're gonna find it." He also confirmed that federal agencies had been looped in to assist with firearm tracing, including the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, ATF. Their task: track the origin of the unaccounted for 9mm casing and determine if there was, in fact, another gun at the scene that night. Meanwhile, the wounded man still in recovery at Jackson Memorial was finally identified: Luis Fernando Ibanez, a 22-year-old bartender from Little Havana who had just gotten off work and was walking toward his cousin's car when he was shot in the leg. He remembers hearing two sets of gunfire, one sharp and rapid, the other slower and coming from behind him. "I hit the ground," he told FDLE agents. "I didn't know who was shooting or why." The deeper the investigation went, the more it unraveled. A night that seemed like a straightforward case of police engagement now appeared layered in confusion, overlapping angles, and possibly multiple shooters. Sheriff Judd remained unrelenting. "We're not leaving any stone unturned. This isn't just about who pulled the trigger, it's about why there was a gun in play at all. It's about why a young woman died without being involved. And it's about making sure it never happens again." As FDLE prepares to release a full report in the coming weeks, one thing is clear: truth doesn't always come quickly, but it will come. And in Florida, when that truth is hidden in smoke and bullet casings, Grady Judd will be the one clearing the air.